Okie doke. All right. So this is week 4 of the class, and as the main focus of these sessions is really just to give you an opportunity to ask questions, because now we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of this course, and some of it's not necessarily intuitive. You weren't born knowing about solar, so all of this is new, and I want you to have this opportunity. If you run into questions, it just doesn't seem clear. Why don't you use this moment? So, anything before I jump into what I think might be confusing?
Yeah, I was having a little trouble with that solar trying to determine how many hours of insulation on that chart. I,
Okay.
yeah, I was getting some of them, but adding them up but somehow my math wasn't working on some of them.
Oh, you mean like just in the lab where you using
Yeah,
PV watts?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not just using that. They had a diagram on the quiz,
Oh, okay.
and the quiz, and I guess it was hard for me to decide. I wasn't coming up with the right numbers.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the issues I've run into, and I haven't looked at it recently, is that the data from NREL changes. It's constantly being updated and revised, and it may be that if you're getting a number that's close, your math might be right, and the data that I'm using is old. But yeah, let's walk through that a little bit, and let me. I want to make sure I've got my whiteboard hooked up. But first off, let's just talk a little bit about PV watts, because if you haven't used PV watts, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Let's see, which one do I want? How about that's Prezi. Got so many different screens open. All right, which one is that? I guess I need to get rid of that. Okay, that was not the screen I wanted to share. How about this one? All right. So let's jump into PV watts. Hopefully you're seeing PV watts on your screen at this moment.
Yeah.
Everything's good? Okay. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't used PV watts, it's a really, really super handy tool. And so let's say that we want to do an assessment. Well, let's use your house, Joe, because we wanted to take a look. You're going to be putting solar on your home, right? So let's play around with this a little bit, or you're hoping to put solar on your home. What city do you live in?
Battleground, Washington.
Battleground. All right, so I can put that in. I could put in a zip code. I could put in whatever, and it will search for it. Looks like you're right there near Vancouver,
Yeah.
Portland.
Hmm.
All right. Okay, so we come in here. I'm not going to change the system size because it's not important that we look at that at the moment because we haven't gotten that far. We can say, all right, I want to put a rooftop system in. I haven't yet determined what my losses are. The angle and the azimuth will have to determine that um, already, but let's just assume it's perfect, like 20 and 180. 180 is solar south. 180 is solar south, 90 is east, 270 is west. So remember, because of declination, um, magnetic south and solar south are not the same thing, especially when you get out there into Washington. You're probably 18 degrees off of magnetic south versus solar south. So you have to make that adjustment for declination. So, but we're going with solar at the moment. So now I would come in here and I would find out that at your location, we would anticipate at that angle, at that azimuth, that we'd be looking at 3.93 hours of insulation each each day on average. you can see in January, life is pretty bleak out where you live, right? It's
Right.
cloudy, dreary, dark. You only
Yeah.
get basically you only get 1.39 hours of insulation. But in the summertime, July, you're getting 6.75. So all of this is not consistent throughout the year, but on average, you're getting 3.93. So these numbers work if you're doing a grid tied system. You're going to build up a reserve of in the bank, so to speak, if you've got good net metering in the summer, and you're going to be running at a deficit in the winter under this scenario. So if I let me go into, I need to figure out how to move this toolbar. There we are. Yeah, so I'm going to go to open. All right. So are you guys seeing? Oh no, they're wanting to sell me something, huh? Let's build. Good.
If it's free, they're gonna try to sell you something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If the product is free, then you're the product, right? Okay. All right. So this is a handy system. I really I like Open Solar. So are you seeing the Open Solar screen there?
Yeah. Hmm.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you your address. Um, Hopefully it works. For some reason, I'm not able to click in there. What is happening here? I'm something. Enter in the address of a new project. Huh. I'm getting. All right. I'm going to stop the share and try it again. See if there's some interference there. Huh. Weird. I am logged in, right? Well, that's different. Oh, I guess I got to go in there. All right. Now I can do it. Okay. What's your address, Joe?
11505 Northeast 279th Street.
Battleground, Washington.
Battleground, Washington.
All right. So now we're going to see your home. See, so this system here, I assume, is that your house?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
All right. So you could put it on your roof, or you could put a ground mounted system. Which one are you thinking?
Our ground mounted system more toward the left where that little the van is parked. The other way,
Oh,
right there, where those probably take out. I guess west of the house.
well, west of the house would be over here.
Well, that's east. West of
Uh,
that.
no, this is, oh, yeah. This is this is the back of your house. The bottom of the
That's
screen is south.
yeah. So let's go west.
All right. Well, that's still going to be west to the left.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, right there, where that pickup is, or that van.
Oh, way over here.
Yeah, keep going. Okay, right in there. The couple of those trees would come up right where that van is somewhere.
Okay. All right. So so we could put in a ground mounted system there. Well, let me just show you if we wanted to use the roof, because I want
Okay.
to kind of demonstrate. And
Okay.
the ideal section of your roof at the moment is this a garage or a small
That,
um,
that's that's a
cottage?
guest house. That's a
Okay.
guest house. Yeah.
All right. So if I wanted to go ahead and start the design here, I would go ahead. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I've got things. All right. So if I hit create project, and now we're in the design phase. They've changed this since I was using it. Yeah. So first thing they're going to want to know, well, you can put in using this thing. I can put in your name and the address, and there's some management tools there. But it's going to want to put in your energy usage. Now it assumes a certain average energy use for your region. So so that's built in there. So if I didn't put anything in, it's going to say default for the location is 12,492 kilowatt hours per year. And it allocates them based on um, the, um, the data that it has. But if I have a copy of your electric bill, I can take that and I can just enter the numbers manually. So when we do an assessment, this is typically what you're going to do is you'll go in and you'll plug those numbers in and it'll give you a true usage number. But let's assume we're just going to keep with whatever the because I don't have your electric bill. So we're just going to go with what it's claiming is the averages. And now it says, okay, select a tariff. So do you use Puget Sound Energy?
No. Clark County PUD.
Okay, so in theory, it should have Clark Public Utilities.
Yeah.
So I could pick this one. Um, yeah, I'd have select. All right, so I could do that, and it's now going to plug in those tariffs. Or I could hit simple, and I could just figure out it's 12 cents a kilowatt hour, or it's 14 cents, or whatever. So let's just assume we picked that one, and let's hope it's right. Now I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go into the design mode. So here's where we've decided. Now it always throws it into 3D, which I hate. This just shows some of the shading and the trees, and it tries to do it. I just think it all looks like a impressionistic painting by some surrealist. So I'm going to go down into 2D. I could use Google. I could use Bing. I'm going to use Google. I'm selecting it, and now it's going to throw it back into 2D, which gives me a little better. And now I've decided I'm going to place this solar array right here. Well, now it's going to ask me what kind of panels am I using? So I can take the panels that I've already selected and I can pull it from a list. And it's got pretty much every panel. I could type in the panel I've got, but let's just say we've decided we're going to use Jinko 425s. Well, the nice thing about that is it now tells me, you know, the dimensions. It has that already plugged in. So if I want to add panels into this, and let's say I decided I'm going to go portrait, I can lay these onto the roof. And you can see that if we decide we're going to use this roof as our place for solar panels, well, already just putting those panels there, I can tell I don't have the proper setbacks, and I can only stick 5 kW system on that roof. Well, 5 kW system is only going to give me half of what you need based on your consumption. It's saying 51%. So if I had decided I wanted to put it on your house instead, I could get rid of that. Oops, I'll just think I'll delete that. Yes, delete it. So let's say I'm doing a more traditional one, and I'm going to use all the space. Now, I can't really go on the north side of your roof, but I could go over here. I could put those over here. But I still can't really do, I might be able to do 2 rows. Go right to the eave. And I might put some over here, but you'll see that if I want to add more, I'd have to switch these to landscape. So your roof is really not very suitable for solar. You can see because you've already got this pitch here. So the most I could hope really to get onto your roof are 8.5. I could get up to about 84%. So, but the thing that's nice about this is just orienting them on the roof. It's now told me you're at a 186 azimuth and 20-degree slope. So it's done that calculation for us. So if I want to jump back into PV watts, I could go back here and I could go 20 degrees and it was what, 186?
I'm
So
trying
I
to think. 812 is probably about a 27 degree.
27 degree pitch. Okay. All right. So we'll add that. Now, one thing we don't know yet, well, we can see that now it's 4.02. So we've done a little bit better in the insulation, but we could also use that open solar. And I could just sort of right here, I'm looking over here on the left, and 8.5 is giving me 84%. But let's just throw some more panels on there. I want to get it up to 100%. So I'm just going to throw in panels even though they're not in the right location. And so a 10.2. So if that was the size, you would need about a 10.2 kW system. So I could jump back here into PV watts and I could change this into 10.2, and now I've sized it. And now it's telling me you're generating 11,000 kilowatt hours per year, 4.02. So we've got some numbers to work with. So even without doing the calculations, I could have already predetermined just using this tool what size array you need. But how would we do it more traditionally if we wanted to size our array? Well, we get into this in chapter 7, but you would take your daily load. In this case, our daily load was, what did we figure? It was, we'd have to go back here into energy. So we've already determined that your annual usage is 12,492. I know it's not, but that's what your average area is. And I could just divide that by 365. So your daily load is 34.22 kilowatt hours per day. So 34.22 kilowatt hours per day. We divide that by the insulation. So we found out from PV watts it's 4.02 hours per day. So if I divide that, I get 8.51. So 8.51. So you would need an 8.51 kW array if the system were 100% efficient. Well, we know that it's not. We know, in fact, we decided you needed a 10.2. Why are we deciding that? Well, partly because if you look here on PV watts, we're derating at a 14%. So we're assuming 14% loss. So that would mean that it's 86% efficient. So if I divide 8.5 by 0.86, now I'm getting basically a 10 kW system. So this is that's how you would figure it if we sized it using the math. You would take daily load, divide it by hours of insolation per day, and then divide it by the D rate, by the efficiency of your system. And that gives you the size of the array. Or you can use this online tool and cheat and come up with something that's pretty close. Really, the big factor in all of this is what is your D rate. So if I, so now if we're really going to design your system, I'm going to get rid of these guys. And then we're going to go over in the area that you like. Over here. And you're thinking you're going to put it with where is that a mound of earth or something there or somewhere in there or where
That's a rock pile. No, right where the pickup is parked.
right where the pickup is? Okay. So we could then take some of these and let's see, we have that. Yeah, so it would be landscape. And let's assume we want
In our area, for the right solar south would be kind of angled like the pickup.
well, not according to this map. So south is well, maybe that no, it's not magnetic, I know.
Oh,
Yeah, so this would be that would be true south.
yeah, and then solar south should be angled a little more.
No, true south and solar south, same term. Magnetic south might be a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
different.
Oh,
But
okay. I see.
yeah, so
Oh,
this would
okay.
be 89%. So if we put it like that, an array like that might be enough. Let's just see. Oh, that's 11.9. That's going to be too much. Just trying to see if we orient it like that. 10.2. Yeah, that's going to be the size. So using those panels, you would have an array about that size. So that would give you a sense of how it's sitting there on the land. You'd need, of the panels we've selected, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 panels, 10.2 kW system. So that would be, okay. So that gives you a sense of using PV watts, but also using solar. Now, the other open solar, the other thing you can do with that, let's just say that we've decided this is our system, we like it. We're going to say, now, if you're doing this for a living, I'm saving it. And then you can go into this online proposal or PDF proposal. You basically plugged in everything you need. You set up a template there, and now it will just simply generate this proposal. It'll put in your name, your logo, where the system is, how much it's going to cost. We didn't really plug in some pricing numbers, but we're jumping through. But it also figures out a payback. So the payback on it's going to be 7 years, 4 months. It's assuming, well, I've already preset these things. So we've got REAP grant, 10% energy community. I doubt you're that. The ITC. So all of those things may go away. Let's just say, all right, so with all of those incentives, it was a 7-year payback. Let's say we go back into, let's eliminate all of those incentives. And where is that? Is it? There's cost. So you can plug in your cost. Let's say we decide that the cost here is going to be, enter price per watt. So let's say it's going to be $2.50 a watt. And trying to see where they put the incentives. Yeah. Override defaults. Yep. Okay. So now we've taken away the incentives. And now if I want to generate a proposal, you're going to see your payback just got worse. So if we look down here, sorry, you're never paying for it. Your cost is going to be 25,000 bucks. And I've never seen this before.
Well, I think our electricity here is the cheapest in the nation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about 8 cents a kilowatt.
So why the heck are you putting solar on your house?
Huh?
So
I don't think it's not going to stay there.
yeah, that's true.
It's
And
yeah,
and it
Portland's
will
gone
not
up.
be reliable.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys use primarily hydro out there, don't you?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so that incentive, yeah, this is basically your motivation is not necessarily financial on this,
no,
but we can see the way that it's working. All right, so that gives you a sense of using Open Solar, and it's a free program. So I would encourage you to go in and sign up for Open Solar and just play around with it. It's very nice. It works very well. It's as good as some of the systems you pay $200 or $300 a month for, and it's good for just doing your assessment. So is everybody clear about PV Watts and Open Solar? How to use those online tools?
Uh,
Yeah.
Jay,
Uh-huh.
well, first of all, Joe, uh, how did you know you wanted to place them on the ground versus on the roof? Did you already know that the roof wasn't sufficient, or?
yeah. Well, I'm a builder by trade. I build a lot of houses, and anytime you make a penetration in the roof, it's a potential problem.
Okay,
And
okay,
I,
yeah,
and I started building houses, and I got an aversion. I started building houses with zero penetration through the roof.
okay.
Okay, so it goes against every bone in my body to make. And I think
Uh,
a solar array, I think probably has about 50 or 60 penetrations.
Yeah.
I
It's
feel
Okay,
you. I feel
yeah.
you.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm with you on that because if you can avoid putting it on the roof, it does add some cost, because now you're building the structure as well as the array, the racking that you put up those poles. It's not a lot of structure, but it's still a cost. So, each of those poles now costs more than $100, which is crazy.
uh, uh,
So go ahead,
Real
Nate.
quick, I forget what's the height of those poles.
It depends. It's really whatever you want it to be. You can get it to where oftentimes the front pole is going to be, let's say, 3 or 4 feet above grade. The bottom one or the top pole might be 6 or 8 feet. In fact, that's
Okay,
a good thing to look at because I like to do it with to make it functional. I like to raise them up higher. So let me
right.
share another tool here. This is Iron Ridge.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying this because I was thinking about best ways of avoiding shade with those poles. So
Yeah.
that's where I was going.
Yeah. So if we look at the Iron Ridge system, all of these systems have tools like this. But if you go in and let's say I want to go into the design tools and I want to go ahead and I can't see what that says. Uh, okay, so create a free account. I think I already have one. Yeah, so I guess I got to sign in. So I won't go ahead and build a new one, but I think if I can find this one, yeah, from Columbus. I don't even remember which one this was, but you can see that you can use these tools, and after you've plugged everything in, you can get a bill of materials or you can get your project report. And one of the things it does is it will give you the drawings, and it even gives you like a wiring diagram, all of the materials, and it should have an above grade. Oh, this was a rooftop. Shoot. State of Ohio. Oh, that's interesting. It's got an engineering stamp. So one of the nice things that they do is they will, if you run into problems with the permitting folks, they will, they'll talk to them on the phone, and engineer to engineer kind of thing, and that can be a big deal. Um, Let me open this one because I know this is a ground mounted one. And I know I'm project not quotable yet. What do I need to do? Oh, I guess that one's not done. This is what happens when you, oh, this one was a very small. Yeah, this was a ground mounted system for sure. But I just wanted to point out, this is mostly just filling in the blanks. But what's really nice is when it's all done, it'll tell you how many panels. You can just sort of see here. This is showing me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 12 panels. It has the rails. It shows you the dimensions, 17 feet by 17 feet. It talks about the pier spacing, how far apart they need to be, how far you can cantilever. That means the panel over top of the racking. The north-south pier spacing. So think about that, where if you've got 4 piers, it's saying 9 feet between here and here and 12 foot 8 between here and here. So it's already calculating all the engineering. And then here you talk about how high, and this is what they're recommending. 2'4" for the front and 3'11" for the back. So those are pretty low. But actually, when we installed this, it's a pavilion. So there's picnic tables under it, concrete pad, and it's an area where students can sit under the solar array. So, we just ignored that height thing and went with, I think it was about 8 feet in the front and 12 feet or 11 feet in the back. So you can increase the height there. Some of the other interesting things is they'll tell you about the diameter of the holes. Here they wanted it 3 feet deep based on the weather, 1 foot 8 inches in diameter. They'll even give you in the list of materials, they'll give you how many cubic feet of concrete you're going to need to fill those up. So, and as we said, these will, they are engineer stamped diagrams. And so that's good. And then I think if we wanted to see the bill of materials, it'll give you all of the bits you need to order. And plus it gives you retail pricing. You can usually get cheaper than that. Gives you the shipping weight, but really very handy tool. So when you go to design your racking systems, every manufacturer of racking has these kind of tools available. and you can use those to just put together your racking design, whether it's a rooftop system or a ground mounted system. Takes a little bit to, learn them. And then of course, if you don't do it frequently, you got to sort of relearn it every time you open it up. But they're not hard. They're not hard. Even I could do them. So, that's
So, uh, so with the remote design systems, are most of them free?
no, no. Open Solar is the only good one that I'm aware of that's free. It's an Australian-based company, and what they do is, if you looked at the reports and everything, they'll oftentimes put product flyers in the project report. You can delete those pages afterwards. If you look at the product, or when you say I need a panel, it's going to push like a manufacturer's number there. It's going to push them up near the top. So you might have to, so it's pushing product at you. It's not
I see.
super obnoxious, but that's how they pay for themselves,
I see.
is
Hmm.
they're collecting from those manufacturers to sort of promote Enphase or to promote Canadian solar panels or whatever. And since they've got a million users or whatever, Canadian Solar is like, hey, it's worth a few $100,000 to me to, pay you to push my panel up at the top of the list, whatever.
So are the remote systems really popular? Because
Yeah.
the way you walk through there and what they do, I'm very impressed
Yeah,
with.
I mean, everybody does it. Everybody uses those remote to do your evaluations. The what a normal company will do now is, if you're in business, you're going to get a dozen calls a week at least, maybe 100 calls a day if you're a bigger system, bigger company. And people are going to say, how much is it going to cost? What's the price? And there's no way you can drive out to their house. So once you've talked to them a little bit, if you think they're serious, you might put together a remote assessment without driving out there, and and you can do it in half an hour or whatever, and then say, okay, here's a preliminary take on what I think you need. Don't put dollars into it yet, but you still got to drive out. Once they say, yeah, I'm interested in that, then you drive out to make sure that what you just saw on the screen is the same as what's there. Because when we looked at Joe's place, you know, there's a big pile of rocks there. Well, is that pile of rocks still there? There were trees. He's saying, I'm going to cut down some of those trees. Maybe they blew over already. I mean, I've done a lot of these assessments where I went out to a site and looked at the building, said, this is perfect for solar. Then I went back to do the assessment, and there's no building. It's just a construction site, because the
I
building,
see.
it's using Google Earth, and Google Earth was last updated there 3 years ago. So the building's not there. So, but trees grow, trees fall down, people build houses, people don't, so you want to make sure that the remote site assessment matches the as it exists, so. And you can use that 3D tool, and you can do some very intensive shading analysis to see how tall are those trees. All you're seeing is a trees there. Well, how tall is it? Well, that LiDAR imagery that it uses will give you that information. I don't usually use it that deep, because I can figure that out when I'm on site. But a lot of people do. You can, it's like everything else. I can play the piano, but if you wanted a song, you better have somebody who knows how to play the piano. I can bang on the keys, but there's a big difference. So, all right. Any other questions here? I know. Let me just quick glance just to see if there's anything else in chapter 6. The issue between solar south and magnetic south, you want to understand. East and west, it's fine to put them on an east-west roof versus a south, the only difference is going to be about 20%. So that would mean you just put 20% more panels on that roof. So that all works. The angle of the roof, there are complicated ways of figuring it out, but the best thing to do is just to get the app and put it on your phone and just put the phone on the roof, and it's going to tell you what the pitch is. Now, as Joe was mentioning, we have a table in here and it's got the run and the rise. So you'll often hear people say, I've got a 412 roof, or I've got a 112 roof. And that's just how high does it go for how long, the rise versus the run. And I've got a table in there that gives you angles approximately. Where you're going to put it, that's always a big issue. Is it roof? Is it ground? You got to worry about setbacks. You've got to worry about orientation. Solar Pathfinder will do that when we meet. You get a sense of that. The solar fraction, the solar resource fraction, solar resource, that's in the book. We talk about it. It's not something that most people have to deal with. Basically, what the total solar resource is if everything's perfect, how much sun can you get at this location? So if the angle of the array is perfect, the orientation is perfect, there's no shading, that's considered the solar resource for that location. Then the solar resource fraction is how much of that are you actually capturing? Because your angle and orientation will be different than ideal. Because if you're putting it on a roof, what's the angle? Well, it's the pitch of the roof. What's the orientation? Well, it's whatever the roof is facing. So you don't get to decide if it's perfect or not. You're just going to use what exists. If there's a tree there and it's shading, well, you could cut down the tree, but if you're married to my wife, she's not going to let you. She's going to say that tree was there before you decided to put solar. It's going to stay and you're just going to deal with it. So you go, okay, well, I'll deal with it. So then you subtract those. So you've got the tilt and orientation factor and you've got the shading factor. You subtract it from the resource and you end up with the total solar resource fraction. It becomes an issue if you're going after grants usually. Because the grant might say, I'll give you a grant, but you've got to have a total solar resource fraction of at least 80%. Otherwise, you're just wasting my money. So that's where that comes into play often. So it's a concept that's important to understand, but you don't run into it a lot. The other issues around doing a site assessment, I think, are pretty logical, pretty intuitive. Like, where are you going to put the array? Where are you going to run the conduits? Where are you going to put the balance of systems? Where's your disconnect? Are there any hazardous issues that you've got to deal with? Is it a high wind environment, earthquake prone environment? Are there neighbors with a pit bull that comes out after you every time you get out of your truck? What are the assessments? In a place like Joe's, you're kind of out in the middle of the country. You don't have a lot of those concerns, but there is staging areas where you're going to store the equipment, where you're going to park. If you pull up in front of somebody's house in an urban environment and you park your trucks and then they come running out saying, that's my parking spot, you're not allowed to park there. And you're like, seriously? And they say, I'm calling the cops, and you're like, what? Really? I haven't even responded yet. There are a lot of people like that. Or I don't like solar. You're not allowed to put it on that house, and you go, you know what? You're not the boss of me. Well, then all of a sudden you're dealing with the police. And I mean, we had a neighbor in Florida who called the police because she complained that our typing, my wife used a typewriter, was too loud. It was bothering her dog. So she called the cops, and we're like, really? So anyway, you get those kind of neighbors. So if you're doing a site assessment, what I recommend you do is when you pull up and if you're selling it to the people in one house, I would go to the other neighbors, knock on some doors, say, hey, just letting you know that we're going to be putting in solar, and the date we're planning is November, 27th or whatever, you got any concerns, because we're going to be here. We'll probably make some noise. We won't get started until 8:30 just for but any place we should park or not park, most people just want to be asked. If you ask them up front, if they're going to be a problem, they're going to be a problem anyway. So you may as well just be forewarned that Gladys next door is going to be a pain in the ass. And that's just, you're going to have to deal with that. But the other thing is you can say, hey, by the way, we're going to be here. Do you want solar? Because we'll give you a discount. It's easy to roll a truck for two as it is for one. So I can give you 5% off or 10% off or whatever. Maybe you'll sell another system. But it'd be worthwhile to just find out what are their concerns. They don't want it. They don't like it. They think it causes cancer, whatever. Maybe you can deal with them up front without dealing with them on the day. So that's something I would suggest. The other thing that's always an issue, well, one of them is structural condition of the building. If you're putting it on the building, does that building, will it support a solar array? Well, the weight of the system is not very much. It adds about 2 to 3 pounds per square foot to the roof. Well, if I walk on a roof, I weigh more than 2 to 3 pounds per square foot. So if it'll hold me, it'll hold a solar array. But it's the live load that's the issue. The pulling
snow and
up,
stuff.
the push, well, it's the wind more than anything. Snow is going to be on your roof whether there's solar there or not. That is considered a live load, but I think I kind of discount it. But the wind, it acts like a wing on an airplane. It'll pull up and push down. So it can be as much as 50 pounds per square foot of additional weight. Well, my sense is if the roof seems dodgy, you get that kind of intuitive sense. If I don't feel super comfortable walking up there, you better get a structural engineer out there to take a look at it. Or it's probably, you can almost make that determination. If I feel like I have to jump from rafter to rafter while I'm walking around, I don't know that this is the best place for solar, so maybe ground mounted is going to be a better suggestion.
You're just
Some
making
cities,
case after case for ground mounted, and I totally agree.
yeah. The penetrations are a big issue. If you have problems with your roof, you got to take it off and then put it back on.
Yeah.
We've run into that a lot where somebody put in solar and then they decided they needed to replace their roof. And now you pay as much to have that solar array taken down and put back up than you did to install it in the first place. So, unless you've got a brand new roof, but I like ground mounted a lot, but it is a little bit more expensive. Here in Marietta, where I am right now, most of the homes are old Victorian. Their roofs are not going to be suitable for solar. Most of them, they're slate roofs. While you can install solar on slate, I wouldn't recommend it because you're just going to spend all your time fixing broken slates. And they have the dormers and the, weird pitches and angles and it's just not going to be great. So a solar carport like we installed here is a better option. Park your car under it. It's a nice place to do that. So ground mounted, solves a whole world of hurt. But the existing electrical is always an issue. So you go in and can your electrical system handle the addition of solar? And that's going to be a factor. How big is the service panel? Do you have 200 amp service into a 200 amp panel? Well, that's going to limit you to 40 amps of solar coming into that because of the 120% rule. If it's 100 amps with 100 amp panel, well, then it's going to be a 20 amp system. So is it a load side connection? Is it a supply side connection? In today's world, in Ohio anyway, I don't know. Joe, you're in Washington. I know Jess, you're in Ohio. Nate, where are you? You're in Pennsylvania.
Indianapolis.
Oh, in Indianapolis. Yeah, I don't know that Indianapolis. Well, Ohio is under the 2023 NEC, the National Electrical Code. Well, in the 2023 NEC, they require that you have a utility service disconnect at the meter. So what that means is typically you got to swap out the
Supply
meter
side.
box and
Mhm.
put one of those disconnect switches underneath that meter so that your main disconnect is actually outside the house instead of at your service panel. Well, if you're going to do that, the box usually ends up having 2 or 3 double pole breakers as part of it. That's a good place to hook in your solar, right there at the meter. So you don't have to mess with your existing electrical service. You can just hook in at the meter. It's not a true supply side connection because you're basically putting in a new main. So you're still going to be on the customer side of the main. But now you're talking about having to hire an electrician. You're going to have them pull the box. You're going to have them shut off your power. All of those things are not that difficult, but it adds cost. It adds cost to the system. But in Ohio, if you do major revisions, and this is going to be true in every jurisdiction, if you do a major electrical revision to your home, you've got to upgrade to the newest electrical code. So, your house might have been just fine back in 2008 when it was built. But now that you're putting solar on, your inspector might say, well, that's considered a major upgrade. And now I want you to bring everything up to code. And now you've got to bring it up to the 2023 code. So you got to put in a utility disconnect. You may as well use it. So that's an issue. So if I'm talking past you a little bit there, you might want to look at that. Just Google utility disconnects and you'll get a better sense of it. All right. So any questions before we call it a day? Sort of gone a little bit off the book, but I think
Yeah.
it's useful during these sessions to see, what tools are out there to use.
Yeah, I've
One
got,
last question. Do either any of those tools that you just highlighted include options for estimating like off-grid systems or like hybrid systems that can be like off-grid and on-grid, or like adding batteries, powering your house from those? Do they include those? I haven't looked into them that far.
I think the Open Solar does do it for batteries. My guess is there is a way of doing it for the only difference for the array, for an off-grid versus a grid-tied system is you don't use your averages, you use your critical
Right.
months.
Yeah,
And my
that's what I was
guess
thinking.
is we could probably plug that in, or you could just plug in your critical month numbers as your average numbers, and
Okay.
that will give you the same. So you could use those tools for that, but it might require a little bit of understanding and a little bit of jury rigging. But remember when we do off grid, we use the critical month numbers. You find the month with the worst case scenario. It's sort of a combination of power used and sunlight available, and you take the
January.
worst case month. It's probably January, but it might not be. You might not use much electricity in January, but you might use a lot of electricity in July because of air conditioning, and you've got natural gas heat, for example. So it might be, it normally is, but it might not be. So you could use those numbers and plug them in and get a number. Your array is just going to be bigger. That's all. Everything else is going to be similar. So yeah. Yeah, Joe, you had a question?
yeah, I'd like to get the names of my classmates. Meet you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, there's Nate Harris.
Yeah.
Nate.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Nate.
And Jess Fritz.
Hi,
Hi,
Jess.
And we also have let me just pull it up. I should probably have known that. But there's a group of others that will be there. I think there are about 7 in the class. So there are just 3 of you here. I think a lot of them are just simply relying upon recordings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me see how many are in if you're interested. I can give you I'm pulling up the sheet.
And you guys are pretty far from Ohio too. Are you going to be at the in-person training though? Or are you like coming
Yeah,
in?
yeah, we're planning to. Yeah,
Oh wow.
we got some. We got little things to do in Detroit too. So at the same trip.
Yep. Did you find out? Did you decide which hotel you're going to stay at?
I think the one my wife took care of that, but I think,
Oh, the
I think,
Lafayette.
yeah, Lafayette. I think. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I think you'll like it. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to judge. My best friend Paulo would never set foot in there because, it's funny when he and his wife travel, his wife makes him get out of the car before they check into a hotel and see the room to make sure that it's been built within the last 2 or 3 years. Because she won't go in. She won't even set foot in the hotel unless it meets her high standards. So
Yeah, that wouldn't be the Lafayette. That's a historic.
um,
It's
Right.
cool though. It's got a great view.
Well, our house is. If you looked on Google Earth, our house is all stone.
uh,
So the walls are about a foot thick. So and our house is built to look old. So my wife goes for that old stuff.
Oh, you'll
okay.
like the Lafayette then.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah, I
cool
just-
ironwork and all that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just looked and we've got 3 other people in the class. So Rose Marie, who has been on here, she's actually coming in from where is it? Boston, maybe up there. Robert Toma and then Justin Carmichael. He's in Marietta. So I don't know where Roberta Toma. So anyway, so there'll be 6 of us getting together.
Good.
All right. Okay. That's it. We'll meet again next week. And
Okay.
you're invited to attend Solar Noon Tuesday. So learn all about solar carports. That'll be right up your alley, Nate. You can, and you too, Joe. You can
Yeah,
make
yeah.
yourself a place to park your car.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys later.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.